Welcome to the Modern Leadership Podcasts. I'm Tim Nolan. So today's episode, I want to look at something that just came from Gallup. Really cool stuff. Whenever Gallup brings out new stuff, I always love looking at their research. And one of the things that they identified recently was common reasons why employee engagement efforts fail. So they list four. Two of them I'm really going to focus on today. So the four they identify: a lack of executive ownership, overcomplicated strategies, misleading metrics, and action gaps. So, really, the two things I really want to focus on, I think, I see a lot. I see a lot with organizations I work with. And the first one is lack of executive ownership. Now, this is a tricky one because one of the things I found, and not sure how you may see this, but whenever an organization decides that, hey, you know what, our managers need training, and in many cases, it's what I call the family therapy model. I started in the mental health field, and so the family therapy model is, you see this often, where sometimes they'll take their kids in. Hey, my kid's not doing well. And the parents sit in the lobby like, hey, go ahead, work my kid, and thanks. And the therapist is like, yeah, no, you got to come in here. And some of the cases, the parents are like, what? I thought you were just going to. No, you're part of this too, and you contribute to these challenges your child is experiencing. And organizations, in many ways, have used this family therapy model where the executives look at management training. And hey, we're just going to send our managers through it and things are magically going to get better. When in fact, that's only part of the solution. Executives, in fact, I'm working with an organization right now, and I've had several recently, where this is a huge challenge. That when an organization decides they want to do a management training, leadership training, and that's a big investment, not only in time, money, resources, but if you're not going to get fully behind it and implement it, reinforce it, discuss it, and it's not going to work. Or if it does work, it's going to work in pockets. And that's more because of the individual wants to implement this. So it's a huge organizational missed opportunity. So Gallup is right on the nose when they talk about lack of executive ownership. Whereas executives, they need to be like going through the program first. I would recommend it. If there's any kind of program, is they should go through it first, so then they can speak the language of the program and use it to reinforce and embed that in interactions that they have with people. And in many cases, it's very inconsistent, let's say, that I'm seeing this. And in fact, managers will often tell me is, how come my boss is not in this training? They need this as much, if not more than me. And so it's really interesting that employee engagement is something that is discussed often. But if you don't have a total approach from the very top, it's not going to work. And then you're wasting all of your time, money, and effort into it. So I think, and this goes, if you've been listening to the podcast, this aligns with what I often say, is that the higher up people move, the less feedback they tend to receive. And I'm talking feedback on their performance, on opportunities for them. And this also aligns with having a growth mindset. And people at all levels, is especially those in executive positions, need to lead by example and then use that to influence other people. So leading by example from an executive standpoint looks like they're asking for feedback. Hey, I expect you to give me feedback. Not, hey, it's okay if you tell me something, or maybe I'll listen to it. Is, no, I expect you to be honest. I expect honesty. I expect you to be candid with me and saying, Tim, you're not following through on this. And holding executives accountable. Accountability is a really great leadership phrase. Oh, we're going to hold people accountable. And people always, they nod like, yeah, we need accountability. But executives need accountability too. And in many cases, they don't think the problem applies to them, or they're not part of the solution, or that training by itself is the solution, when in fact, that's only part of it. And if they don't actively engage, model, reinforce, and live the values of whatever leadership program they're going through, it really is a waste of time in some respects. So that's why. So I really like what Gallup said there. They talk about overcomplicated strategies that don't align with what the needs of employees are. And this can happen if you have like an HR team that's really disconnected from what the needs of what the employees are really telling you. What do they need? What do they want to do to feel supported? Outside of maybe higher compensation, what are their needs? How are you listening to them? Are you have focus groups? What are you doing? And how are you aligning those strategies with the needs of your workforce? In some cases, people either looking at something that they saw at a conference, something that's on LinkedIn, something that sounds great conceptually, and it really doesn't align with what the needs are. So that was a really good point as well. Another one was misleading metrics, and Gallup indicates this is where maybe using something like percent favorable scores, where it may inflate results. And whenever you're working with your team and you want to see more engagement in your organization, you have to be able to report on the facts. And so this is why organizations, when they do their yearly engagement surveys, in many cases, they have low response rates. And they have low response rates because either a few reasons, either A, people don't feel like what they can relate, what they can mention is really anonymous. Or B, which is really the more likely situation, is that they don't think that anyone cares, that anyone's going to do anything with what they have to say. I've heard people tell me countless times, like, yeah, I used to do that survey and I gave the same response a few years in a row and I didn't see any changes, any discussion about it. So I stopped doing it. And so, again, if you're getting a low response rate whenever you're doing a survey, that's something to look at. Why are people not responding? And so, whenever you do a survey, you want to report, like, this is what's happening. And if there's numbers that are troubling, then you need to face it as an organization. Here's a challenge. We're going to put it out there and we're going to outline an action plan and get people involved. We want to create a call to action. How do we get people involved to solve this? Not, hey, we identified the problem, you guys go fix it, executive team. Is the executive team looks at it and go, okay, we see these challenges. How do we enlist people to participate? How do we get people involved to want to make this work so that they can have some ownership in the outcome? Because if it doesn't work as well as people want, then people need to look at themselves and go, okay, that didn't work. Why did it not work? How did I contribute to that? And especially if the organization is like, look, we're empowering you to look at these potential solutions. We even implemented some of them. So if it didn't work, then let's look at something else. So don't sit here and blame us. Again, the misleading metrics that Gallup talks about is making sure that not only are you doing surveys, but you're sharing those results, looking at areas of opportunity, creating an action plan, and enlisting people to participate. And then the last thing that Gallup was looking at was related to what I was just talking about, is action gaps, where surveys are overused and follow through is inconsistent. In fact, I've been hearing this, a little bit, a good amount from organizations over the past year, saying that their staff are suffering from survey fatigue, and that means they're sending out too many surveys. Well, that's the thing that becomes a problem in and of itself. Are you sending out too many surveys? One of the things, I was actually working with an organization yesterday, and we were talking through a challenge they were experiencing. And I said, this is the perfect time to do a very targeted survey, 3-question survey, where you identify where leaders are asking for feedback. So you're essentially creating a 360. But you want people to evaluate their managers, make it anonymous, 3-question survey. again, how would you rate me on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being, let's just say, very proficient, 1 not very proficient. And question 2, what are 2 to 3 things that you feel I'm doing well in? And question 3, what are 1 to 2 areas that I can focus on more? Now, that's only part of it. The messaging before you send out the survey is vital. Where you're able to communicate, because we need to take into consideration that most people don't want to do a survey. They don't want to do it because either A, they don't think it's going to go anywhere, or B, they feel like it's going to come back and bite them in the butt. So we need to quell those fears from the beginning, like be able to show them like, hey, we're going to do this survey. Number 1, I need everyone to complete this survey. And number 2, I need you to be honest. If you feel that something is not right, if there's an area that I'm coming up short in, that I could do more with or more of or less of, then let me know, because I have blind spots. These are areas of unawareness. I may feel I'm doing a pretty good job. So that's why I want to ask you. So you need to be able to tell me. This is your opportunity. And please, if you're really feeling something, then say it, because I can't read your mind. So once you do the survey, you give them, let's say, a week to get the results. Then you bring the team back and you share some of the main themes. You don't have to go everything, but like, hey, you know what? My average rating was a 4. Some people said they really like this that I'm doing. A few others said I could do this a little bit more. You can just kind of summarize that. But then you talk about in the one-on-one meetings. Hey, Tim, I'm not sure if you did the survey recently. We had 75%, which is great, really good. Definitely would love 100 next time. So not sure if you did the survey, but if you did, is there anything that you would like to elaborate on? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And then in that moment, I'm more likely, the individual is more likely to talk and discuss. Like, hey, Tim, this response was mine, and here's why I said this. And so, but we need to create that dialogue. People need to feel like it's psychologically safe. Can I be honest? You want honesty. Can I be honest? And so when you take all these in total, these are really big reasons why employee engagement strategies fail. I see it. I see it every day with organizations I'm working with in one way or another. The leadership training is only part of it. It's really about improving process within the organization and getting people to actively participate in the kind of processes that they want to see. And as Covey would say, just continually sharpen the saw. Again, using a growth mindset is, I know I need training, whether books, whether it's a podcast or something I'm reading or learning from other people, and having this commitment to learning and growth, being able to come back from challenges, be resilient in the face of failure, and asking for feedback. That's my favorite one from the growth mindset, is asking for feedback, creating a culture to where it's an expectation. We want people at all levels to continually ask for feedback. How am I doing? And leaders as well, organizational leaders should model that, and then influence those below them through different layers of the organization to be asking for feedback and to actually want to do something with it. If themes emerge from the feedback, then okay, these are areas of opportunity that I need to look at. Again, we all have blind spots. And if we think we're doing a good job and we're not asking for feedback, nothing's going to change. And you're only going to push your people away. So that's why when we look at engagement strategies, employee engagement strategies, as an organization, is maybe having focus groups of people, try to lay off the surveys a little bit, unless you're going to do something very targeted, like a 3-question kind of survey, time to time. Those can be very powerful because you're only focusing on one issue. And if you're going to do these engagement surveys, you need to be able to message it ahead of time, talk about it afterwards, and then have those concrete action plans that you can continually discuss and communicate with your staff to show them we're doing something with this. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your feedback. And we're looking at making progress. Here's where we're at now. Here's our goals. And we want your help to get there. And so when you take all that and put it together, then you get employee engagement strategies that work. And then once you have that, that's really the mark of a good, strong culture in an organization, which many organizations really struggle with. They think they have a good culture, but there's a lot of things missing. And it's really through lack of awareness that causes that. So what can we do to increase it? So that's why with the upcoming Highly Effective Managers program, if you either register yourself or if you want to get your team involved, space is starting to fill up because it's starting October 16th. And definitely send me an email, tim@highlyeffectiveorganizations.org, and I send you a book, I show you a demonstration. And then depending if you want your organization to go through this, then I'll also work with you to implement these things I was just talking about, to troubleshoot and get ahead of and be proactive regarding executive ownership or action gaps, things of that nature, as well as any other challenges that come up. So again, any questions, anything you want to see covered in a future podcast, tim@modernleadershippodcast.com or tim@highlyeffectiveorganizations.org, either one. Pick which one you like. So, but anyway, Modern Leadership Podcast, Tim Nolan. Have a great day.